and I want you to know that I do not believe that anybody should be have a monopoly on noise and interruption. You would start it in Mr. Mawodo with me. This show will not happen.
Mr. Mawodo, ye Muwada. Abusing, yeah?
He represents who and whose views?
You want to have this show degenerate into a shouting match?
No.
Mawodo, you will not speak.
Because
I will speak over your voice.
When you handle the promise, you represent who?
You are
you represent who? And can you account for your funding? How do we hold you accountable?
Are you Samuju?
How do we hold you accountable? And whose views do you represent in your promise?
You want this to degenerate into a quarrel?
These are concerning issues.
That's what you're going to achieve.
Account for your funding. Who funds you?
Why is that your issue? I found myself.
It is impossible.
You do public work. You who account for your funding.
To do public work. And who do you report to? When you disregard former channels, you disregard former channels. You purport to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You purport to be the ambassador. We can't know who funds you. Now you represent the money. This is concerning.
The EU themselves have said you steal money. You noob, you have stolen money. How can you claim to be fighting?
From where and from who?
The EU gives you money and you have stolen that money.
That is your public rhetoric and negative rhetoric.
It is the EU. So you as a noob, have you accounted the money government gives you? I have been involved, for example, in relations between Uganda and Rwanda.
There's a question I've been asking myself for all along. I see Andrew Mwenda on Al Jazeera, on BBC, on CNN, on Sky, on Fox, or everywhere, on international media, representing Uganda government. As who? That's the question Mwenda is asking. Is Papa trying to be the Minister of Internal Affairs? Is Papa trying to be the Minister of Finance? Is Papa trying to be the Minister of Defense? Bro, he is everywhere, but he is nobody in the government. He says he's doing that as a Ugandan. But who funds him to do whatever he's doing on behalf of the government? He can't show us who is funding him. Ostegede because mbuye ye fundinga nga sente zazijawa ostegede bano bakole emirimu gy'obu mafia okubuzaabuza ensi bamukutte
Kagame have good relations with President and I can carry messages in between.
As who? You carry messages as who? You carry message from Museveni to Kagame and from Kagame to Museveni as who? As a minister, as a commissioner, as a representative, as who?
So sometimes state institutions are paralyzed or not the best suited positions to work. But always these formal institutions, rather informal institutions, must reinforce formal institutions. So formal institutions don't work in a vacuum. When you come to power, you will find all the second.
Now you see, the guy is not Mawodo, is Mawada. Muwada Nkunyingi, Muwada, not Mawodo. But he is doing so to demean Honorable Muwada Nkunyingi. Over to trigger him into violence. Alimu mu triggeringa. Asole okumunyiza. Oshitegede. Bino babikola. Era nakugamba nti ojja kusanga omuntu akola ku Twitter ya General Muhoozi. Ye mwami ono nga yamwacha ekyo abawandiika to trigger the public okuteekawo chaos mu public. Oshitegede is a senior journalist, so-called senior journalist. Gwesimanyi oba yabisoma nayinza okuba nga abyeyita. Oshitegede nga abyeyita nti amu journalist yaliko. Oshitegede ne nga omulimu gwe just to okutambuza propaganda n'ebitaliyo. Okugezaako okubuzaabuza ensi, okufuuyirira obugalo bwa Nakyemalira ayongera okufuga bannayuganda ng'azanyira ku bwongo bwabwe. You can't tell me you are a professional journalist and you are the one abusing an honorable member of parliament. But you are accusing NUP members, supporters to be abusive, yet you are abusing a member of parliament who has not abused you. Mawodo.
I do not disturb your presentation, even when you are accusing me of
just information. I think it is intentional for the likes of Mwenda and his accomplices to dismantle democratic institutions and constitutional establishments, including ministries. Now you are seeing him confessing live that he has been engaged in diplomacy. And for us who are keeping government in check, we have a mission.
How do you keep Andrew in check?
we have a mission, an embassy in Rwanda with a diplomat and the staff. In fact, he's even a general.
Can I finish?
Now, it is facilitated and funded with a vote on taxpayers' money to execute diplomatic work and diplomacy. Now, when I hear that, it is now Mwenda doing their work, when we are also paying diplomats there, that's dismantling democratic and governance institutions. We cannot admit it.
Wow. Mwada musajja mugezi na lisimani. The guy can give you reasons. President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, you did a best choice. Yes. Ulia. Twenza kunga mandi no. Twina embassy. Mulimu ambassador. Walo Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yo. Nenga. Tebiso awabo mbitu waswa kwasaganya nsonga ziri wakati wa Uganda ne Uganda. Wakati wa Uganda ne Rwanda. Ngabayina kozesa Andrew Mwenda. And nobody, because he claims to be a friend of Kagame and a friend of Museveni. How? But babikola bigenderere okuono na system ze Uganda, okuono na ebitongole, ebikulembere gwanga babyono ne bibere bifuwe fufulufu, bateko obukundi bw'abantu babasasula okukoleje emirimu egitali official.
Not a bit.
Honorable, allow him his time.
Yes. So first of all, you can clearly see he has not listened to me. I have explained to him, both theoretically and empirically, that formal institutions cannot work alone. They need informal ties.
Now, first, show us where formal means have failed to work. That we've passed it through our ambassador in Rwanda, the Minister of Internal Affairs, the ministry and the embassy. They have tried this and that and they have failed. But if you can prove to us that our embassy tried to engage the government of Rwanda and they failed, the Minister of Internal Affairs tried to engage the government of Rwanda and they failed. Everything failed. Bro, if you can prove to us, what's the trouble? No, bagezako che bagezako ne bigana. Nga tuwali kugezako. Nenga bayita meri bali ne bakozesa Andrew Mwenda. Adagamba mbwaliwo informal ne Bro, tubalaba.
I can tell you. And I have given examples of so many governments in the developed world. So is this man, Vernon Jordan, who was Clinton's handler, who was not in the government, was he undermining America's democracy? This father-in-law of Trump's whatever, who is handling these peace negotiations, is he undermining American democracy? This guy, Alistair Campbell, who was helping out of government but working with Tony Blair to promote, no country can work without those informal connections. That's so important. And I have told you that informal networks can reinforce formal institutions. Left alone, formal institutions cannot succeed. And I have seen many international negotiations where somebody from outside the system helped. I'll give you another example. How
Andrew,
I think hold a second, my brother. Please, hold a second.
The question is,
how do we hold
the blur between the formal and the informal?
How do we hold Andrew? No.
Let me give you an
information,
example.
Andrew.
Please,
how do we hold him accountable?
Yes.
We want to know what funds, what is his source of funding?
Okay.
How does he access that funding to do whatever he does? Two, how do we hold him accountable?
So when
and if it is for his
values,
he represents who and whose views?
You want to have this shot degenerate into a shouting match?
No.
Mawodo, you will not speak.
Because
I will speak over your voice.
When you handle diplomacy, you represent who? You represent who? And can you account for your funding? How do we hold you accountable?
Are you Samuju speak
How do we hold you accountable? And whose views do you represent in your diplomacy?
You want this to degenerate into a quarrel?
These are concerning issues.
That's what you're going to achieve.
Account for your funding. Who funds you?
Gentlemen.
Why is that your issue? I fund myself.
It is impossible.
You do public work. You who account for your funding.
To do public work.
Who accounts your funding?
And who do you report to? When you disregard formal channels, you disregard formal channels. You purport to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You purport to be the ambassador.
Bro, this is insane. You're not getting so seko.
We can't know who funds you. Now you present for the money. This is concerning.
The EU themselves have said you steal money. You noob, you have stolen money. How can you claim to be fighting?
From where and from who?
The EU gives you money and you have stolen that money.
That is your public rhetoric and negative rhetoric.
It is the EU. So you as a noob, have you accounted the money government gives you? You are here saying that you are an opposition person.
Why do you like NUP
you denounce the government. Don't you earn a salary of 40 million? Don't you earn a salary of 40 million from government? The poor people who vote for you
we want to know
and 1,000
who funds you, Mwenda, to do public work.
Yes, we also
and
want
who
to
you
know.
are accounting to.
I want to know why you sit
you
in
are
the
not an ambassador
of a government.
You are not a minister. You are not an office of government.
40 million shillings a month.
Who funds you? Who do you report it to?
More than every ordinary Ugandan. Please tell me.
Guys,
you sit in the government. You say this government is
but that's constitutional.
You are
those are elective officials.
Exactly. It is constitutional. But is it right?
Those are elective officials.
Is it moral right for you as a member of parliament to earn 40 million shillings?
Now look here. That's their way of fighting. If they learn out of words, if they can't urge you out, they want to blackmail you. The government is giving you money. You are paid 40 millions every month. But it's constitutional. It's mandatory that Mwenda, as a member of parliament, must be paid that amount. And not only Mwenda, even the NRM MPs are paid that amount. So why are you accusing Mwenda of being paid 40 million shillings of Uganda money, taxpayer money, and you are not accusing NRM MPs? Because you want to show the public that these are not fighting for you. These are not with you. But tell me, are the NRM MPs with Ugandans are not being paid 40 million shillings? That is only no member of parliament that are only paid the 40 million shillings. NRM are not paid. Let's talk about the money being given to political parties. And the Museveni has just passed a bill in parliament where political parties will no longer be funded. No longer be funded. Starting, I think, by next year. Yeah, they will no longer be funded. Because he wants Kyagulanyi to go on his knees, to go and get a photo show with General Museveni in the iPod something. Now, bano abantu kyebaliko kulaba nti bono n'ekifaananyi kya Kyagulanyi ne Nuupu balaga ensi muno bano tebalwana nammwe naye bagamba mu Kyagulanyi afune ssente okuva mu gavumenti. Ssente ezo nzijagala mbuze olumu omuntu omwaŋŋambe ssente eziweebwa ekibiina kya National Platform era General Museveni zyakoledde bill teziddamu kuweebwa National Platform tekiddamu kuweebwa ssente ezibadde zikyobwa buli mwaka ekiva mu Parliament Electoral Commission ez'okuddukanya emirimu gy'ekibiina zibaaganye tebaddamu kuzibawa. Essente ziba za Museveni alunda ente ze n'atema ennyama n'atunda n'awa Nuupu oba ssente zange omwi w'omusolo. Kyagulanyi yalondebwa bannayuganda bebanga nga tuli ku byabwe babba yafuna obululu emiliyoni 3 n'ekitundu mu emitwalo 7 kati miliyoni 3 ezo mu emitwalo 7 ez'abannayuganda abalonda Kyagulanyi bawa omusolo. Omusolo gwe bawa gwe bakozesa Kyagulanyi gwakozesa okuddukanya emirimu gy'ekibiina ky'abo bannayuganda abamulonda. Si ssente za Museveni. Is mandatory ti munnayuganda ow'omusolo. Omusolo gwogwo gw'oyagala ofuna obukulembeze obulungi. Mulonze Kyagulanyi Center mu Robert Bobi Wine. Essente zammwe ze muwadde mu musolo ze muwa Kyagulanyi akozesa emirimu gy'ekibiina si ssente za Museveni. Bandu Mwenda byagala okulimbalimba abantu muno gavumenti basere gavumenti ya sente zijjawa batunda nte za Museveni atolma ku ttaka lye n'atema n'atunda polotisi najjo nawa Kyagulanyi atunda mataga atunda bulobwe atunda ki sente zange ezo sente zoba kibiina kya National Platform sente zasula abaka wa parliament sente zange si sente za Museveni ani yani oyo omusajja Mwenda Andrew Mwenda mbadde manyi nti no wasoma he calls himself a journalist who doesn't know, who is not informed. Mbanduru Mwenda. Banange bano babikola bino babafusanga omuntu nga fala. Bakuteeka mu katebe woti n'otuula ne asanze muwadanga tebamuwogganirako. Mwanyanda Mwenda yakwatako n'essemujjula ku program yemu ku UBC yakwatagira ssemujju nganda n'amusirisa we ssemujju n'akuma omuliro ne guggwamu naye asanze akaana kamuwada akageto okuva wali kozi Mwenda achikirira Kyagulanyi yali achikira bayitayo constituency bagiyita bata president asobola okuchikirira bagiyita bata bameganye erinnya liganye okujja physically bulungi nnyo naye nga bamutegeddeo president yali achikirira Mwenda gyachikirira abaana ba ghetto ebintu byonna abitegeera Kyagulanyi yamuwa omulimu okubeera minister wa internal affairs bagiyita bata kiganye okugatta anti kati nkyamuse nga bwenchamuke ebintu mbigano okugatta naye nga mutegedde Mwenda yakola ku nsonga za bannayuganda oba ensonga za Uganda ez'ebweru ndowooza obategerekeka ngamba bwetu ku nsonga za Uganda ez'ebweru okitegedde kati ali so informed mu mateeka na buli kimu amanye engeri system gye zitambula na buli kintu bwe kitambula kati ate eno crony eriwo eyandulu Mwenda temanyi ye just alokola propaganda bamugambye kati yogera ku national nagenda nayogera ne bw'omwajuwinga out ideological talina olabye omusajja mwajuwinza out namugamba sente z'okozesa okukola emirimu gya public gy'abannayuganda ozijja wa nga tolina mulimu gw'olina bannayuganda gwe baakuwa tolina woofiisi ekola emirimu gy'abannayuganda yonna gy'okolamu then sente ezikola emirimu gy'abannayuganda ozijja wa who funds you n'ajoboja Nopu tubawa sente gwe Mwenda olaba tukuwa obukadde 40 buli mwezi olabye kina kya Nopu tubawa sente temuli accountable Nopu yokaye wewa sente z'ekibiina ne National Resistance Movement NRM bajuwa sente yali accounting dani ate nga yasinga ofuna sente nyingi Democratic Party bajuwa sente yali accounting dani ekibiina kya FDC bakibudirwa sente for over 20 years yali accounting dani okitegedde UPC wewa sente yali accounting dani UPC yina ku kitebe naye kyazimba obote okitegedde NRM ebadde wano for over 40 years terina kitebe naye nga bagiwa buli mwaka bagiwa sente z'okudukanya ekibiina ekyo tebalina wadde kitebe n'ekimu wadde National Platform yakola n'emyaka 4 wagindaba 4 obusente bwe yakafuna okuva mu paalamenti ebuzimbyemu ekitebe headquarters zitamagana bezitinga mukene baweerera abaana b'abasibe bajjanjaba abaana abatuusiddwako ebisago gavumenti ya Museveni bakozeseza ssente y'omusolo obulungi kati kibaluma bw'abanga Andrew talina kyagenda kukwajuwinga out nga tandika tubawa sente zaffe Andrew Mwenda sente ezisasulwa ekibiina kya Nupu zizooza Museveni zaffe abawe b'omusolo
Honorable position allowed happened. Andrew, we are back.
That gives you 1.3 million shillings every single day.
Andrew.
You think that's fair because in the Constitution?
Honorable.
The Constitution allows you to scavenge in this
Honorable,
country.
no
Cheat
comment.
the people of this
Please,
country. We should allow
you
it.
will comment.
Who do you account to yourself? Do you account to your voters?
Because
Andrew,
do you account to your voters
you are not an ambassador.
You
are not a minister. We want to see how do we hold you accountable?
Do you account to the people of Uganda? For you earning 40 million shillings a month,
guys,
do you account to
as the
them?
agent of Uganda and foreign relations?
I'm asking you, for a man like you, claiming to represent people, you represent people who live on less than $1 a day.
Unless you can account for us.
1.3 million shillings a day. How can you?
Now, why do Ugandans live on less than $1 a day? Because of bad leadership. And that leadership is the one you're supporting. General Museveni is your friend, Moses Kainerugaba is your friend, and the one who's defranchising Ugandans to live on less than $1. Now you are attacking Mwenda because he's being paid 3 million shillings a day. That is his work because he's a member of parliament elected by the people of Chadondo East. And he has to serve them. He has to traverse that constituency every day. All right? So that's even small money. But General Museveni is using billions and billions of dollars every day. Akozesa millions and millions of shillings every day. Wanabada agenda okutambula simanyi bino bipadiem, simanyi babiyita batya. Ebyo bisimanya kwekulakulanya, simanya myoga, simanya biki. Nga agenda okulambula babiyita batya. Project ya 1 million. Nga buli muntu amuwa million emu. Naye nga yo kugenda ku lugendo lw'okulambula project ya million emu obubizi n'obukoko n'obubuzi. Nga akozesa 300 millions. Imagine. Ogenda kulambula millioni emu n'otekamu millions 3. Is that common sense? Is that common sense? Kati oli wano wajuinga out Mwenda olaga naye ng'okomplinga ku kintu kimu sente mu franchise Ugandanese bro tuli bagezimu.
You can author
have
books.
a conscience?
You can author books.
And you come here and criticize
Leave the
first of all,
conversation.
you come here to criticize
Please allow us to have a
Museveni,
conversation.
and from whose palm
that is
you are
civil.
feeding.
Yeah, you also control
Okay,
him.
then hold
Why
on.
do you want to control me?
He's the one who started
Because it's
this.
his time.
If you want to make this a personal debate, I'm asking him, yes.
Leave him.
I think let's carry
Now
on.
let's come back to the debate. Because the question that I posed to you, you talked about informal institutions and formal institutions.
Yes.
And both of them have to find
And I'm not responsible for his lack of intellectual quality of any type.
I'm with you.
That's his weakness.
Leave him. I'm with you. How do we account for the blah in bit there? Because you have given examples, and these are democracies that have been around for over 200 years. Ours is a young democracy. How do we help the institutions grow and kill the blah in between the formal and the informal?
First of all, let me explain to you. Formal institutions cannot work as he thinks. He has no knowledge, any intellectual knowledge of how formal institutions work. He has never studied institutions and institutional growth in his life. You can clearly see he's an ignorant man.
Okay.
That is one.
Let's focus on the
Two,
conversation.
I have explained to you, wherever country it is.
Now, why is Andrew Mwenda angry like this? Because they have argued him out. He has no point to say. He has no point to tell. Now he has resorted to become an angry man abusing someone who is not educated. Bro, knowledge, common sense is not being educated. Common sense is common sense, and common sense is not common. Andrew Mwenda is speaking out of lack of common sense. He's praising books. I was educated, but you were educated, but you never learned.
You will need informal institutions to support formal institutions. Because he scavenges on the state, he thinks those of us who serve our countries need money from the state. I don't need. Government of Uganda has never bought me a thing.
You don't need money from the government. Then where are you getting the money to do what you are doing? Bro, you don't have a job, Andrew Mwenda. You are jobless. You are jobless. Where are you getting the money to fund what you are doing? How can a jobless gentleman do something official? Yet you are jobless. Tell me where you work. Now, Andrew Mwenda, tell us where you work. What's your job? Nothing. You worked in the media for some years. We know the media is, bro, is blocked. There's no money in the media. Bro, there's no money. You know, everybody knows that. You never got anything from your media work. You got nothing. You came out a broke guy and you start working with General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. You are jobless. Where are you getting the money to fund your works? Nowhere.
He feeds off the government of Uganda. I don't feed off the government of Uganda. He can go and check my bank account where the government of Uganda has never paid me anything. Never. And listen, I don't need to be paid for me to serve my country. When I went to work as a journalist at the Monitor, I went there because it was a calling for me. It was not a job, it was not a career. Monitor did not need to pay me for me to report news, to do analysis. I come on this show all the time.
Yes.
I don't get paid. I come here because it fulfills me.
You come here to deceive Ugandans, to prey on the minds of every Ugandan, to put out your propaganda. That's your job now. Meaning General Museveni is giving you handouts. They are not paying you officially. Now I think they are paying you. They are giving you handouts to do what you are doing, to go on with your propaganda. But we see
an interest in promoting democratic debate, expanding the frontiers of freedom in whatever form. He is involved in it for money. Let him be a volunteer in parliament, then you can see. He goes to parliament, they pay him 40 million shillings, voters who voted for him, and less than $1 a day. And he says that's a fair thing because it's the constitution. So because the constitution passed the law to feed you and then fatten you and enrich you at the expense of voters, then it is right.
Thank you, Andrew.
So that is the issue we have. The final thing I have explained to you, this thing about Saleh. Saleh is an official of the government of Uganda, appointed as a senior presidential advisor, but he also has influence. If I'm an ambassador, for example, Nicholas here, are you employed by the government of Uganda?
No.
Don't the diplomats talk to you about Uganda?
Every day.
So what is this man talking about? If you are a diplomat, you must meet people who have influence, who have voice, and share ideas with them. If you want to exercise influence, that's how you do it. If people don't come to you, it's not my problem that you lack influence. Perhaps because your intelligence is so low, nobody's going to listen to you. So the final thing I wanted to say before he disrupted me, and I want you to know that I do not believe that anybody should be have a monopoly on noise and interruption. You would start it in Mr. Mawodo with me. This show will not happen. The final thing I just wanted to say is the one thing that Ugandans should know is that all of us don't need to be employed by government like he is to do work. I believe I can serve.
I just love this. Mwenda, Nkunyinji, thank you, bro. You did your work. You've interrupted the guy. He has lost the debate. He don't know the question he was asked to answer. He's now talking about Maudo, because he has lost it. Thank you so much. Job well done. You confused him. Perfect.
This country, and I will continue to serve it in every single capacity without a government job. I don't need a government job. I don't need a government job. You can ask him 7, he appears before you in public, doesn't he? Or you can go to sit and ask him. Mwenda was flying all the time to Kigali. Have you ever given him 1 shilling? If he tells you yes.
Flying on what, yet you are jobless? Andrew Mwenda, let's be real. What's your job? You're flying from Uganda to Rwanda, from Rwanda to Uganda, using what? You are jobless, bro. You are blocked. Where are you getting the money? You don't work. Tell us, what is your business? What's your work? Who pays you? Whom do you pay?
Ask him where that budget is and how much money he gave him. Okay. So I'm not you. I don't scavenge on the state.
Honorable Mwenda, when you see this letter from the UPDF, and you have mentioned about the meeting in Gulu, but a lot of work is being done by the EU to develop our country. How far should this greeting go? It seems like it's going to the elbow instead of a handshake.
Well, as long as the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, as amended, still stands, where by Constitution all power must belong to the people, and execution of public roles and work must be in the best interest of the people. I will insist that diplomacy is a formal process. The conduct and actions of the UPDF, releasing a statement naming an ambassador and a country called German, I find it as an attempt to bully, character assassinate, and intentionally disregard established diplomatic avenues. There is no proof that they have exhausted diplomatic avenues, if avenues, and without prejudice to whatever information that may be within the knowledge of the UPDF. I still find the timing and the conduct, equally the mode of communicating any such concerns as intentional, because the bilateral relations between Uganda and Germany have existed from way back. I've been trying to cross-check since 1964. 1964, just 2 years after Uganda's independence. And it involves relations in various sectors. They have supported Uganda in agriculture and rural development, renewable energy, refugee hosting communities, good governance, human rights, public finance management, job creation, among others. And you cannot tell me that we are waking up today to say that now the German ambassador or German is not welcome or is bad merely because they questioned why Uganda and some agencies of government in this country are disregarding values of fundamental rights and freedoms, including aspects of torture. A country that supports Uganda in the development cooperation, and the development is in the interest that Ugandans live and live longer in a healthy environment. Now, you cannot say that they have no authority or moral ground to question why there is intimidation, why there is torture, why there is abduction. This is a very interesting development. And equally, when it comes to the nature, I mentioned that kind of meeting must have been a setup to parade media and ensure that there is presence of mercenaries like my senior Mwenda. By the way, I would respect him in other spheres. But when it comes to formal service delivery and representing government, I mentioned in the beginning that ours is to keep government in check. We cannot assume who to hold accountable. We want to see the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our embassies, our government institutions, which are well established and which are well known, which we can hold accountable, represent and handle matters of governance and diplomacy. There we have no we have no exemption. So whether he has acted in good faith whatsoever, we find it irregular that matters of governance and diplomacy, we find it irregular. Matters of governance and diplomacy must be executed in accordance with the law. When you say you are appointed, but whatsoever, even appointment and delegation must be in line with governance and the law. We have three ministers. We have three ministers of foreign affairs. Three ministers. How do you disregard the three ministers? You jump to Andrew Mwenda. And when and how can you hold Mwenda accountable on TV, in the media? Now, back to what he mentioned. He also quoted NUP. Hold on. I wanted to respond to that also.
Is it the process or the product? Because the thing is, the challenge.
Can I tell that's why these people are not running a government?
Hold on. Because the challenge we have,
the degree of your
in the governance,
Andrew,
where will I find Mwenda to account for whatever he has executed and under which mandate? Government cannot be at leisure.
Let's put the mandate aside. Let's ask the question, because the challenge right now is that there are accusations. There is intelligence that has come out that is making accusations. There is torture, yes. They're fundamentals. Is it the process you're looking for, or the product at the end of it?
What product are you talking about?
Without process.
I told you without, first of all, I said without prejudice. If the UPDF or any government agency has any concern towards any diplomat, they are well-established avenues. And those are very clear, especially through Minister of Foreign Affairs. Those avenues are very clear. They can explore those avenues. But coming in a media to character assassinate an ambassador, a diplomat, is an attack on the diplomatic space in this country. There are other formal processes they can explore. Now, when it comes, why are you quoting distant examples? Let's exhaust Uganda now. Let's exhaust Uganda now.
Yeah, but
why do you fear facts? Why do you fear facts?
I'm asking him.
Because
this ignorant
it is you who is ignorant in matters of diplomacy. I'm trying to lecture you on diplomacy. You are only being assertive on what you do. I'm telling you what you are doing is wrong, is illegal. How do you be accountable? This is diplomacy. This is not, we are not discussing at leisure.
Whoa, Madasi Blavangako, Madon Quatide Akasaja. Mwe mubiraba eyo nga bwe mbiraba Mwada akutte Mwenda because bwe nabe ba Mwada akutte Mwenda ebigambo bimubuze buli lwajjayo reality n'ateeka ku mmeeza amazima Mwenda atawuka ayagala disorganizing obwongo bwa Mwada ne Mwada mugezi.
This is diplomacy. We must hold institutions accountable.
Who told that diplomacy?
Welcome. Back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. In the studio, I'm joined by Professor Sarah Sali, Counsel Nicholas Opio, the old man of the clan, Andrew Mwenda, Honorable Mwada Nkunyinji, representing the people of Chadondo East, Ambassador Simon Mulongo, and we're discussing especially the issues that transpired in Gulu between the EU and the team that was with General Saleh discussing patent issues that were there. We're also looking at the letter that came from the UPDF the day after, especially making very strong allegations that came there. But let me read two messages and jump into Andrew explaining to us the deep state there. My name is Wilson from Muyenga. The old man of the clan is very right. Sovereign countries like Uganda should be free to handle their affairs without interference by Western powers, but as long as the Western world finances a greater part of your budget, then they must control you. So stop dependence on the donations and tell them hands off on our affairs there. Okay, thank you, Wilson. Moses, who is a student at Mbale Secondary School, appreciates the show and is watching and learning a lot there. Okay. Keep the messages coming. We'll read them in a bit. But let me read the statement, then come to Andrew. I'll read a bit of it. This was signed off by the spokesperson who was with us last week, Colonel Chris Magezi. And this is the part that caught me. We are particularly concerned about the illegal and clandestine activities of the German ambassador in Uganda, His Excellency Matthias. The intelligence services are aware about his clearly undiplomatic practices that have been taking place in different parts of the country sometime now, and which has gone against the spirit of the Vienna Diplomatic Convention that regulate cordial relationships between states. The government of Uganda is following up this matter with the concerned foreign mission through the various diplomatic channels to address and be able to sort out this development. Andrew, the first question is, I know you want to comment on some things, but the first question is, how did that meeting end and did it bear any fruit? Secondly, what do you make of this statement from the UPDF? Why was it the UPDF that was responding and not the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? All yourself. And
that letter clearly states that the matter is being handled through diplomatic channels. It is said there, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in that letter. But the UPDF as an institution responsible for security, and if it says the ambassador is involved in subversive activities, the security can also comment on it. So that is not unusual. Now, but let me come to the issues of international relations. Let me begin with Nicholas' statement on the responsibility to protect. But the preamble is this. Uganda has many problems. Maybe you have torture, we have corruption, we have so many things. I believe those are our problems. We should address them as Ugandans, and we should refuse foreigners to insert themselves in our affairs.
Torture?
That is my principle.
And even torture? You want to torture Ugandans and no one can talk about it, and nobody can blame you, nobody can stop you from torturing Ugandans? But it's an international law. Bro, you are not allowed to torture Ugandans. You as who? You torture them over what? Bro, temugia kututulugunya. Tukolako bikolobero. Mugambo temwagala abazungu babiyingiremu. Ne atanga abazungu mukozesa sente zaabo tutulugunya. Sente zabaze mugulamu mmoka ne mutulugunya. Ze muzimamu ezo zigo down ne mutulugunya. Ze mugulamu emmundu ne mutulugunya. And you don't want to be accountable for your actions, Mwenda?
To you, Nicholas, if you read anything I have written, I oppose all forms of aid, whether it is humanitarian, whether it's technical, whether it's financial. You can read over the last 20 years I have written so much about aid. I believe financial aid, for example, So what I'm saying that even interference in human rights undermines our democratic process, because it hijacks the political struggle from the domestic to the international. I will give you an example, and these people of NUP are interested in power, not in democracy, I can tell you. That's why they would invite these Muzungu to get involved. You see, if you are given financial aid, so the government of Uganda depends on World Bank, IMF, and other donors for money, then it has no interest in engaging me and you to build political institutions and public policies that can increase our productivity so that it can collect more tax revenues from us. It loses interest in us because the productive margin in its search for revenue does not lie in our farms, in our factories, in our gardens, our ranches. It lies in begging international donors. If very powerful rich countries come and say they are the ones supporting him, you see, democracy grows through fits and starts through over a very long period of time, and it's a journey, not a destination. I could give the history of the US. They declare the Declaration of Independence 1772. Their constitution, which says all men are born equal, is 1789. But in 1789, only rich white men could vote. Poor white men could not vote. Black people were slaves. Native Americans could not vote. Women could not vote. You see, but through struggle, in 1830, they accepted adult male white suffrage. 1865, they abolished slavery. 1868, this 190 years later, is when America passes a law saying nobody will be stopped from voting on the basis of their former condition of servitude or their race. But black people never got a right to vote until 1965, 150 years later. You see, so the struggle for Uganda's democracy is a struggle we should be involved in. We will not achieve what we want in our lifetime, but we recognize that we are always part and parcel of the struggle to expand democratic rights. Now, how does foreign interference undermine this struggle? And this is not to criticize the opposition in Uganda, it's just to criticize the structural, it raises a structural point. Because if I am Kyagulanyi, I am Mawodo here, there is a powerful country supporting me, it may, recognizing that I'm backed by the Americans and the Europeans, it may reduce my incentive to engage in negotiations and compromise with Museveni in order to achieve, maybe I may not achieve 100% of what I want, I may achieve 10%, but 10% is a good progress for us. The Americans up to now are still involved in the democratic struggle. They have not arrived there. So, back to the Batoro, call it kuterektigi. I don't know how I can translate it in English. Is to give somebody such confidence that you take away the incentive to compromise. But democracy is built on compromise. Let's come to humanitarian aid. Let's come to practical everything. Whenever foreigners insert themselves in our issues, they may be even well-intentioned, but they change the structure of incentives. Because if you know that whenever there is a famine, somebody will come and give you food, then the government's incentive to build institutions and policies to guard against famine are reduced. Because you know something will come from outside. So, avoid foreign interference in our affairs. Even Uganda's involvement in Somalia, DRC and Sudan, read my ratings. I've said let those Congolese fight until someone wins. Let the South Sudanese win. Uganda can never fix Congo, I can tell you, even if we stay there for 100 years. If we left Somalia today, Al-Shabaab will take over. And I've written articles suggesting that Uganda is stopping the internal process of Somalia from maturing, and that's why we are stuck there. Whatever Museveni benefits from it, whatever delusions possess his mind, we can never fix Somalia. Only Somalis can fix Somalia. Now, let me come to the points of international law. Responsibility to protect. Nicholas, who assigns this responsibility to who? Can Uganda undertake the responsibility to protect? Because as I said earlier, they went to Libya to protect against Gaddafi. But right now, people are being killed. Why are they not protecting? Why are they not exercising it in Israel? They say this whataboutism, but it tells you something. Why is there this selective application of international rules? If Uganda, from international law, which says respect sovereign equality and respect don't interfere in internal affairs, you say, no, for us we have a rules-based international order. Who has set these rules? We can interfere to promote democracy and human rights. Who defines what a country is a democracy? I don't think the United States is a democracy. It's ruled by a few corporate barons. And other Americans are not saying that government. Should Uganda interfere? So these are tricks used by the powerful to disorganize the weak. And Africans should see that. But Africans are so internally divided. That is why IMF can come here and dictate policies. Our story is told by the CNN and the BBC and New York Times. Our hungry are fed by the World Food Program. Our poor are saved by Bono and Angelina Jolie. Tell me one aspect of our life that is not being shaped from outside. If you read the Muzungu literature at colonialism, they were saying we are children, and like all children, we should be governed permanently. So why don't we as Ugandans, I'm challenging you people in the push, why don't you feel that without these Americans, we can fight torture? We may not win today, but we can.
How can we fight torture without fighting who is torturing? Here there is a root cause. The root cause is General Kaguta Museveni for his long stay in power. As the one you are supporting is the one you are promoting, and his son, they are the one who is torturing Ugandans. Andrew Mwenda, your friends are the one torturing us. How can we fight them without talking about it, without holding them accountable? So, when your friends are being asked to stop their actions of torturing Ugandans by those who are funding them to be in power for long years, then that's a bad issue. That's a bad move. Because they are your friends. They must continue torturing us, and no one must talk about it. And you leave it to us, Ugandans, to fight torture. Yet they are getting money from Germany, money from Europe, money from America to buy guns, to use those guns to torture us. And you don't want those who are giving them money to buy guns, to torture us, to talk about it, to stop them from using badly their money that are being given to them for the development of the country. Labayo, Germany wajino Museveni sente mpitirivu bazigulamu mundu, bazigulamu drone, bazigulamu bya kutugunya, bazigulamu masasi. Germany bwevene Uganda ne tubawa sente zaffe muzikozesa bubi. Germany teyina kwogera. Esirike kyagulanya alwane. Abana Uganda mulwane nga babawamba babattane nga twali alabayo buli mwasirikire erinde ne babawamba batta paka lumunala na paka mweje mu ntata nga twali agamba kubali abatemu. And Mwenda kyagezaako gamba. I believe that will work. nina ababu wa sente balina okubanga bazikomezzo zibawa awo tuliba tujja kutambula.
And improve the situation of governance in our country. Why can't we fight for our democratic rights? Why do we, who helped the Americans or the British or the French? Who did it? Why do we expect others to come and help us? In any case, isn't it obvious that others would have interests and the interests may be different from ours? Why do we allow outsiders to insert themselves in our politics?
But also General Museveni, to win the war of 1986, he used the outsiders. Tanzania, Libya, America, Britain, name it. He used the outsiders to top up Milton Obote's government. Yes, they were funding him, they were giving him guns, uniforms, food. Bro, outsiders are the key here. If you don't want them, let General Museveni go out of power. Let him sit down because he was helped by outsiders. So if you are driving away outsiders from our country, let General Museveni resign, go to a seat because he's the product of outsiders. Then we build you a new Uganda without outsiders. There we go.
Now let me come to the issue of General Saleh. General Saleh is, you are saying he's not a government official, is actually a senior presidential advisor. He is also the coordinator of Operation World School. Those are government positions. He's also a member of the Army High Command and he's a permanent member. But even informal, he's a brother of the president. He's a hero of the NRM struggle. All these aspects give him incredible influence, access and influence. He can call his brother anytime and he has influence. Let me tell you, there is no system in the world, Maodo, which works purely on formal institutions. All states have formal structures, but these formal structures are embedded in informal networks and ties. It is the informal networks and ties that allow formal structures to work. I'll give you an example. The world almost came to an end during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. At the height of the crisis, President Kennedy could not get many issues through the Army and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He sent his brother, Robert, to meet a man called, Anatoly Dublin, who was the Soviet ambassador. They sent him at night. He went and negotiated an agreement between Kennedy and Khrushchev, his brother, outside of the structures of government, and he even went in a taxi in order to disguise it. Even in Britain, you can see there was a man called Alisa Cab whom Tony Blair fired. There is a book written by the chief of staff of Tony Blair. The guy is called Jonathan Powell. He wrote a book called The New Machiavelli. You can see even these advanced countries that have had institutions for 500 years still have informal channels through which you can conduct diplomacy. Right now, there is a man who is conducting Trump's diplomacy actually. He has been to DRC. He is always in Russia. I see him in Turkey and Saudi Arabia. What is the guy called? He's not a former employee of government. He's a friend of Trump. Clinton had a black man.
He's a father-in-law to one of his daughters.
Yeah, his father-in-law to one of his daughters, yes. Clinton had a friend, what was that man, black man called? Who always handled his diplomacy. He was not in the government.
Nemwe. Manyiba na watu bakusanga utegera babafula bafala. Oshimanyi. Omuntu ali mu kuhandolinga ensonga zonna. Bamuyita Secretary of State. Secretary of State yakola ku nsonga zino zonna. Era Joy yabadde akwasaganya ensonga za Congo ne Rwanda. Secretary of State yakwasaganya ensonga ezo mu America. Tewaliyo channel ndala gye bayitamu teriyo. Bano batufuula baddofe. Okitegedde? Baddira emboozi okumalwa. Balijja sokusigala ne banyumyamu obunyumya. Bo ne babifuula nti nno byadda bye biri alaali. Gwe mbuulira badde bakola bate Rwanda ng'eteeka omukono ku kiwandiiko ne Congo okusizinga fire bataddamu kulwana na kuwagira M23. Ani gwe walabyewo? Walabyewo taata wa Trump, mukoddomi wa Trump, oba walabyewo Secretary of State Mario? Yabaddewo. Kati bano balowooza muno bannayuganda tebali informed, tebamanyi biki bigenda mu maaso mu nsi. Najjayo examples nakubisa mu mangu awo nakudongowaza n'ofuuka omudongo. Ng'amanyi nno tomanyi Bablood abakwasagana n'ensonga za zewabweru ez'amawanga g'ebweru bamuyita secretary of state era yakwasaganya ensonga ezo kwazibe sanctions kabibe biki yakwasaganya ezo era yali Russia yakwasaganya Russia wamu ne Ukraine yali mu ebyo yagenda wano yagenda wali namaana vayo na jana aleta report na janjula tewaliwo bintu biri informal bikolebwa mu mawanga agategali gwe mpozi nga byakunywa mu kachai nga just bagenda ku party naye ebyaddala bayita mu makutu mu mikutu mitongole kubanga bavaayo nabo bennyini ba secretary of state n'agenda mu lukiiko lwa senate ne bamuyoya kyajojojoji w'ebibuuzo lwaki no kyabadde bwekiti lwaki no wakikoze bwekiti kati taata wa Trump atalina kifo mu gavumenti ananaamubuuza ebibuuzo ku ssente z'omuwi w'omusolo Andrew Mwenda ananaakubuuza ebibuuzo ku ssente z'omuwi w'omusolo temutufuula baddofe temufuula kikyamu kifutuufu
Vernon Jordan Vernon something Jordan Vernon something so the use of informal channels to achieve formal objectives is a common practice in diplomacy.
Deep state is not our word. It's their word.
It is their word.
Yes.
I have been involved, for example, in relations between Uganda and Rwanda. Because I have a good relationship with Kagame, I have a good relationship with President Museveni, and I can carry messages in between. So sometimes state institutions are paralyzed or not the best suited positions to work. But always these formal institutions, rather informal institutions, must reinforce formal institutions.
Yeggwanga bana Uganda batugale tulwane tegobeko nashemalira Museveni